to the story of Pauline Bramble, Book 1. This is Spring's Blossom and Young Thorns. This is by Richard A. Byron Cox by way of St. Vincent. And I chose this one tonight not because somebody, got a little mention in here. Yes, I was privileged to be one of the reviewers, got a little mention. And also, I saw another recognized reviewer in here. We have, know this name right here, Lisa Levi, out of East England. And we also had one of Caribbean freedom fighters, storytellers, also made it in here. Miss Hala L. Thompson, out of Nassau in the Bahamas. And tonight, the reading continues. I want to do a little bit of reading. This one is not so heavy, given that is, the first day in the year. I want us to look at courtship in the Caribbean. It's basically courtship when you see a girl and, as we would say, you check her how it goes. So here goes it. "Excuse me, miss, I have a question," he began. "You could advise me, please?" Ines turned around, seeing Ghost looking at her. She then looked behind her, even though he was staring directly into her eyes. She turned back to him, inquired, "Is me you asking?" She did not believe that he was speaking to her because nobody had ever referred to her as Miss before. "Yes, miss. Well, I don't know your name, so I have to call you Miss." "Well, you might be married." "Well, in that case, I should say mistress." "Well, the thing is, as you works here, you could tell me about this linoleum?" he asked while fingering the product standing between them with his right hand. "I need a little advice on which one to buy for me floor for Christmas." Ghost always uses his best English when he's on a mission for a new conquest. For a few moments, Ines just stared at him, and she didn't know what to say. Being taken aback by it all, she finally caught herself. "I doesn't work here," she said in the best English she knew. "Oh, sorry, but you look so nice. I thinks you works here." "You sure you doesn't works here?" Continued Ghost, this time venturing a little smile and making a playful dance with his eyes, which made Ines smile in response, not realizing that she was doing so. "I think you're trying to trick me because your walk's here for sure," continued Ghost in a sing-along playful tone. Ines, now with a broad smile, responded, "I doesn't walk here. I come to collect something. Them gone to get it, so I'm waiting on them." "Oh, I see. Sorry for the mistake, but you're dressed nice, just like them ladies who does work here." Must be that I see you walking in another store. Must be that I see you working in another store, 'cause I sure see you before. Which store you does work, if I could ask?" Ghost was now smiling broadly. He quickly added, "Or is a secret and you're afraid to tell me?" Leaning a little forward, he continued half whispering, "But you don't need to worry. A secret like a grave, so you could pinch me and tell me." He said all of this with his eyes doing ballet. This made Ines laugh openly. "No, I doesn't work in a store. I's a housemaid." "Your secret safe with me. Now it's only me, you, and God know your secret," he assured, putting his right hand on his left breast while his eyes continued doing their dance, yes, keeping Ines in full focus. She laughed some more. "I is a housemaid. My mistress Hanaway, by Mistress Hanaway," volunteered Ines. "Don't tell me," said Ghost, acting like someone very pleasantly surprised. "You mean them Hanaway at Rose Garden in the big yellow wall house? You know that?" What you mean if I know them? I put on the new roof on the house about 5 or 6 years ago. Nice house, and them people is nice. White people is nice people. Oh, them have a little dog. What name again? Ghost pondered a little, making sure he had Ines' full attention. Yes, laddies, them still have it. You know, laddie, the doghouse still under the plum tree? Ask Ghost. Is me build that too? Them red plum sweet for so. Oh, the little fella Glenville. He must be the big man now. Inez confirmed with various nods of her head that all was indeed as the Bertram Coffee had said. She was impressed that he knew the Hanaways so intimately and that he seemed to be on real good terms with them. It was clear that he had worked for them for some time, which means his reputation must be good because white people doesn't stand nonsense. I name Bertram, Bertram Coffee, but everybody just call he Bertie. She heard him saying, I is a contractor. I just do mason and carpenter work. Actually, I here to see Mr. Knight, the owner of the store. I think they might want me to do some work for them. Ines made an excuse as the store clerk brought the package with the bed sheets. She collected the package, thanked the clerk, and said, Goodbye, Mr. Coffee. Call me Bertie, he replied. Everybody does call me that. As Ines was about was sorry. As Ines was almost out of the door, he half shouted, People just call me all kind of name, even ghosts. Ines did not look back. She was not she was not to see Bertram Coffee again for another 3 months, but he had left an impression on her, and she found herself thinking of him from time to time. Then the day came when she had to pay her society book at the Home Sweet Home Friendly Society, and there whom should she bounce up? None other than Bertram Coffee. She saw him first, surrounded by a group of men. He was obviously the star of the scene, doing most of the talking and in a louder voice than those around him. In fact, the others were not speaking at all. They were just listening to him, interjecting to ask a question here and there. He was a man of absolute self confidence who embraced his physical ugliness, for he was a firm believer in that old Caribbean adage you can't be ugly and bad lucky. He rode his belief luck in everything, but especially with women. He was there with the boys for they all wanted to pay their society books, while the white and the rich and a few highty-tighty blacks were members of the respectable established churches, secret lodges, and prestigious colonial institutions. The desperate poor blacks had their spiritual Baptist religion and home sweet home friendly society. The latter was a death benefit organization and where the members paid a small sum, especially quarter of the year. When they died, an assessment was made as to how they had contributed, and a sum was given to their named inheritor. The latter would then use the greater part, sometimes all of this sum and more, to buy the best coffin they could afford to bury the deceased. Virtually every poor black person on the island was a member of the Home Sweet Home Friendly Society. Most of them became members by the age of 1. This membership purchased by their parents even before they were conscious of being alive, much more being of a person who will die one day. The tradition was that poor black people began to prepare for death having not even lived. Every conscious moment of life was lived with them, being aware that death shadowed them. But death was not all on a welcome future, for for in it they saw freedom, freedom from exploitation, want, sickness, pain, ignorance, evil, temptation, and from every other thing that troubled them in life. It was freedom from the humiliation that being black and poor brought to them. And even every day, this wish for freedom seemed handed down to them genetically from the enslaved forebearers, most of whom believed that death and the passage to heaven thereafter was the only freedom they could have had ever hoped for. Most importantly, death meant going to meet their Lord in paradise and enjoying milk and honey every moment from thence. And probably because this heaven was a beautiful place and Jesus their Savior, they wanted to arrive properly packaged in their Sunday best. They were prepared to go through life sorry, they were prepared to go through life in miserable poverty, but they had to have an expensive burial. Then again, there was a measure of earthly vanity to all this. Funerals were held in a church where all attendees viewed the body and, of course, the coffin. It was the norm that after viewing, the funeral attendees would have much to say about how the dead was dressed, how beautiful and polished the coffin was, and what nice handles it had. If the coffin was not up to standard, one was bound to hear the not too discreet comments of, "Oh God, it's a shame. Look how them bury so and so." Or, "Man, them could have do better with that." Is a shame. When the attendees were cognizant of the deceased's family poor financial circumstances, the remarks were, "So and so poor like a church mouse. Them couldn't even buy a decent coffin." This latter fate everybody wanted to avoid, and that was why being a member of the Home Sweet Home Friendly Society mattered. Apart from the Praise House, this society was assured of its membership among the poor black people on the island, for death was more than respect due to the high regard. It was treated as sacred, so burial was the final honoring and the beautification of the dead. Funerals were the acceptance by these people of being conquered by death, and yet living demonstrated that that acceptance, beautifully decorated, had last say, not death itself. Inez too wanted to make sure that when her hour came, her acceptance would be beautifully decorated. So she had come to the Fairborn Valley, where the Home Sweet Home Friendly Society was located, to pay her society dues. When she saw Bertram Coffee, she somehow became more comfortable and reassured. She knew no one else among the people standing in line waiting to pay the dues, but she knew they shared the desire and the plight. This was evidence in every way. Many had no shoes, not even a gunslinger on their feet. Some were clearly quite senior in age, images of bodies beaten into submission by many years to the estate field labor. Many carried little baskets of food, which confirmed that they knew they would be there for a long time. There were people from all over the island, as Home Sweet Home Friendly Society had this one payment point. Regardless of where they were from, they shared two things in common. They were all black and poor. Inez joined the line at the back. In seconds, there were others behind her. So let's go back. Now that you understand the Home Sweet Home Society, the Burial Society, let's go back to the courtship. As the line inched forward, Inez lost sight of Bertrand. She was about to do a visual search for him and his little group when there he was, heading in her direction. She saw her moment. He saw her the moment she saw him. She wasn't sure whether she should look away or pretend she hadn't seen him, or pretend surprised at seeing him. Neither was needed, as Bertrand Coffee walked straight up to her with a bold and broad smile on his face. "Bless me eyesight, is you Inez? Long time no see you. Good to see you, girl. So, how you do, girl? How you do? How things at Hanaway and them?" Bertram Coffee's sweet sing-song, very bubbly greeting made those who heard him pay attention, query to whom he was speaking. And the flirting continues. Again, if you want to know what happened after, buy the book. It's the story of Pauline Bramble. It's on most Caribbean islands. I got mine at the University of the West Indies Cable Campus, and it's also on Amazon. So the story of Pauline Bramble, Book 1, Springs Blossom and Young Thorns by Richard A. Byron Cox. All right. So this is tonight's read. Have a good night.